for us internally, we're like, yeah, this is super important. People need to know why this thing is important and why they should care about it and like the value of it, and then we'll teach them how to use it. And what we noticed is that everybody was just like skipping that part. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. They're like, just teach me how to do the thing. Teach me how to use the tool, or teach me the workflow. You know, it's that same idea of like the audience is essentially like, yeah, just shut up and show me how to do it.
Hey everybody, we're here sitting down in the studio with one of our TechSmithies, Doug Brunner. Doug, welcome. Glad to have this opportunity to talk with you about your role as customer education manager, as instructional designer, all those things. So welcome.
Thanks, Matt. It's good to be here.
So Doug, tell us a little bit about just give us a brief overview of your background and what you do at TechSmith.
Oh man, how far back do you want me to go?
Yeah, not too far.
Okay. So I started working here at TechSmith roughly 8 years ago. The majority of that time was spent as an instructional designer. The past handful of years, I've had the pleasure of managing our customer education team. So that team is made up of all of our instructional designers, our information developers, our webinar team, and strangely enough, also our localization coordinator, who does localization for the whole company. So we have some keen insight there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So from your perspective, how would you say that you use video from a day-to-day basis?
Me personally, so I'm gonna like take a step back for a minute and say, like, as an instructional designer, I used to live and breathe in Camtasia when we were making tutorial videos. Like, I was in there, I swear it was like all day, every day. Now that I've moved into a management position, I've really switched. Like, at this point, I live and breathe Snagit, and I use Snagit pretty much all day, every day. It's like, it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of like taking the place of Camtasia for me, because I use it so much as a communication tool between me and my team, or between like my team and other teams. And so I'm using it a lot for like those one-off videos where it's like, okay, I need to talk through an idea and share it, or like I need to get feedback on this thing, or I need to like disseminate a decision that we made and make sure everybody's on the same page. I use it a lot as a communication tool. So I don't know, I've really switched how I use video. It's like so much of it used to be like instructional content, and now it's more, communication.
Yeah. So I inherently get, right, like, because we work at TechSmith, we use our tools probably more than everybody else in the world. Mm-hmm. Let's do hypothetical here, Doug. Let's say you leave tomorrow, you go take another job, you're going to be a customer education manager for Acme Corp, okay, right?
Yeah.
How would you continue to use TechSmith tools?
Oh man. So I would demand Snagit, or if I maybe demand's the wrong word. I would get Snagit somehow, even if I had to like sneak it in. I'd be like, I have to have Snagit. And in fact, I would even pair it with like Snagit and Screencast at this point, because I use the two of them together. Like the whole ability to record my screen and my webcam and me like talking through something, and then do like the share link to Screencast, and then being able to just quick like send that link to you and be like, Matt, can you watch this and comment on it? Like that whole workflow. I can't imagine going back before that. It's like the dark times where you're like, right. Yeah, you had to like type out super long email and
I think about like video reviews even, right? Like now in Screencast, you can to be able to have the timestamps on the videos. It makes such a difference.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I know people that don't have that opportunity, and they're still like making a video and then like emailing it to someone or getting a link to someone somehow. And then that person, that poor soul, has to like watch the video and write out the timestamps, like at 1 minute, 12 seconds, and then to try to explain themselves. And then they have to do all the timestamps. And I remember doing it. I remember going through those pains when we first worked here at TechSmith and we didn't have like the commenting on videos. So I don't know, if I went to another, Acme Corp or whatever it was, I would be like, yes, I want Snagit and Screencast, those two together. I feel like are, that's the winner for me. I'd want the whole team to have them, but at the very least, me. Yeah.
Gotta get into everybody, right?
Right.
So, you're got a lot of things you're trying to do. Obviously, looking at your team, you've got a lot of products that are being supported. But what's the hard part of your job, do you think? If you had to say like the hardest part of my job is, how would you complete that sentence?
Jeez. I would say the hardest part of my job is just deciding where to like spend our efforts, spend our time, like where to focus. I am like totally fortunate where I have a team of experienced professionals that are good at what they do, and they have like a breadth of skills. And so in a lot of ways, it's like we look at how we could educate our customers, and we could be doing so many different things. And so it's really just like, okay, deciding where we can be the most impactful, or where we can make the biggest impact on our customers, and saying like, okay, we've got to focus our efforts here. And like, I know we've got these other ideas, we have so many ideas, but like we can't do it all. So it's really like prioritizing like what's most impactful. And also for like a customer education team like ours, it's also then like what's most scalable. Because like those don't always go together. So it's like,
Right.
yeah. So it's like what's most scalable and what's most impactful. And so like really just deciding how to focus in our efforts on that, and saying no to some things, and like really making sure if we say yes to something that it is like something that we can, prove out as like this is going to make a big impact.
So if you were to look back over the last year, what would you say is a project, or particularly maybe it's video related, maybe it's not, but a project that you or your team has done that you say like, this is a thing where you think you had the biggest impact?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back a couple of years on this one. The biggest, I'd say that the biggest, most impactful thing we've done in the past few years is really, ramp up our live webinar program.
Yeah.
Which isn't our most scalable tactic, but it is still scalable. But ramping up our live webinar program has made a huge difference. And it's something where it was like an idea, like, hey, we should do some webinars, and we started doing some, and we survey our customers after we do them. And so what we noticed was like, hey, our customers really like these. They like the content, they like our approach, but should we spend more time doing them? And kind of on from a kind of like an agile kind of like testing method of, it's like, well, you know what, let's just kind of reach out a little further. Let's do a little bit more, and let's see what we can learn. Let's Let's try to like iterate and grow. And we've like iterated and grown that program. That program has matured so much over the past few years that we went from running like a handful of webinars a year to like we run a handful of webinars a week. And we've involved people from around the company. There are people that never thought they would ever be presenting a webinar are now like part of our webinars doing presentations, and it's very genuine. So like it's not just random people, but it's people who are coming on, and they're doing things similar to this. They're talking about how they use our products, or how they get value, or like the impact our products make. And they're just teaching. They're just very instructional, very authentic. But that webinar program draws in a ton of people, and like those numbers are growing, and the impact they have is growing. And so it's, to me, I'm really proud of my team for not losing our focus there, because we're like, this looks like something that's impactful. And even when we started doing the webinars, we couldn't quite prove it all out yet. We're like, hey, we know our customers really like these. They get a lot of value out of them. But what's the ROI? And we were like, we can't quite measure that yet, but we know there's something here. There's a lot of value. And so we stuck with it. We kept our focus. Eventually, we were able to connect all like kind of the back-end systems, and we were able to prove the ROI. And thankfully, it proved right. And so we've ramped up even further since then. But like, I'm proud that we kept our focus, and like we've grown the program, and it's to a point now where it's like very mature, and we're still talking about what more we could do with it. So it's still like very exciting for us.
Well, I do love the webinar program, and I love that you're involving so many other people and perspectives. I think that's really powerful. I want to ask, maybe this is a little bit of a question maybe you don't want to answer, but I'm going to ask it because that's what we're here to do. Is like, if senior leadership came to you and said, hey, Doug, we love what you're doing with the webinar program. We think we need to 10X it, but we don't think live works. Do you think you could do what you're doing and scale it into video? So for instance, we obviously make a tool that you could record something that was, from a content standpoint, equivalent to a webinar in terms of like the delivery of like, you've got a person, you've got screen content, right? So why not? Like, what are the barriers there?
Yeah. So if they came and they made that either that ask or the demand, I would push back hard, and I would say yes, we could totally make that video content, but based on what we know about why people come to the webinars, it would really cripple the program if we just offered just pre-recorded video. And the reason is there's a couple of reasons. One of them is that we found that people really like scheduled learning. They're like, I'm going to carve out this 30 minutes or this hour on this one day, and they can schedule it in. And then
it's fixed on the calendar.
It is.
You got it.
Yep, it's fixed on the calendar. You've got it. And so there's like a certain amount of appeal there. And we don't know exactly why that is, but we just know that it is. And a lot of people really, really like that. The other thing is, like, a lot of people really like being part of that live conversation during the webinar. Some people ask questions, and we have like a support team there that answers questions, which people love. But even just being part of like the live presentation, it like offers different value to people. And it's another thing that, like, once again, we're not completely certain, but we believe it has a lot to do with just like people want authentic connection with other people, and like a webinar is a way to get that. Like when we're performing our webinars, it's very like we're being very authentic selves, and we're just talking through, what we do and how we do it. And so a lot of people like to see that experience live, and they like to be able to ask questions if they can. So the pre-recorded video, I mean, that would have appeal to some people, but I think it would really kind of cripple the program in a lot of ways there.
So, okay, so off of that, and I totally understand, right? And I think it's always weird when we talk about things that are like, oh, well, Camtasia is not the answer, right? Because it feels weird, because that's what we're about. But so I'm curious. So let's say I come to you as someone from another company. I'm just like, hey, Doug, I want to pick your brain about what you do in your program. What advice would you give me about when I should be using pre-recorded like Camtasia videos? Not necessarily webinar format. It could be tutorials. It could be information sharing. Like, when should I be using, as an instructional designer, Camtasia?
Yeah, it's almost like when would you use a pre-recorded video versus like a live event like that? That's tough. I'm not exactly certain.
And again, it doesn't have to be a webinar either.
Right.
Like, not trying to replace those. I'm just saying kind of maybe in general.
Yeah. So I think like what we've kind of learned is that a lot of it comes down to personal preference. Is like there are plenty of people that would just rather watch a video about something than show up to a live event, and there's that goes both ways. So we feel strongly that you need to offer both. Like the beauty of like tutorial videos, or even like long form, short form, micro videos. The beauty of that approach is it puts the viewer in control of what they're seeing and what they're doing. So if they want to sit down and watch a 5-minute video, or they want to sit down and watch an hour-long video, like, they do that on their own time. They can do it on any device. They can do it on any platform. Like, they're very much in control of that situation. So like they want to engage in learning, they go in, they pick which ones they want to watch, and like they can get in, they can get out, they can learn the thing they wanted, and then they can move on. Where like with like the live approach, right, they're very much like investing in us. Like, they're like, I want to sit down, I'm going to hear what they're saying.
So, okay, let me maybe reframe it a little bit, because I want to step away from the kind of the webinar piece of the conversation. But like, are there things instructional designers specifically should be using Camtasia videos for? Are there like best practices, best types of videos? Like, if you could, what's the top 3 reasons you would say, yep, Camtasia is the right answer? Because what I've heard from you is like, hey, we love these webinars.
Right.
I use a lot of Snagit for information communication, but if I'm an instructional designer and I'm new to the field, I'm like, gosh, when should I make a video? What types of things should I make videos about?
Right. So I guess my answer for that would be, like, if you have a specific set of content or goals that you need to hit with your instructional content. Like, I'm thinking, like, when we say like what things, like the biggest recommendation for instructional designers using Camtasia, like the first thing I think of is like high stakes learning.
I think so. If I can add, here's something I think about is, right, like, anytime you have anything that you want someone to know about, or to learn that is screen based, obviously Camtasia should be the first choice, right? Like, unless there's like a very heavy, like, you've got to do, like, you need them to act in very specific ways. Like simulation might be better for that, but like I'm loving, like, so I'm in social media all the time because of my job, but I'm loving seeing, like, I think I just got fed something from a Google, like a TikTok about Google Docs or Google Sheets. And it was like how to do something. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it was so clear that that was the best solution to share that information with me.
Yeah.
And someone could have said, oh, did you know you could select this and hit this and do that? And I'll be like, I don't know. But like seeing it as a video, man, I was like, I'm going to learn that.
Yeah, it's much more engaging. So there's, and I feel like videos have a lot of different roles or places for them. Like, I guess back to your question of like when, with like those must-have situations is when like you have, for example, software or screen video that are like, this is like, I need everybody to know how to do these things.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's where video comes in and plays a really strong role, whether like you're putting together a short course that you need everybody to take, or it's a few instructional videos that you need them to go through. But it's like, Matt, I need you to know this thing. I need you to know it well because this is like part of your job, or this is part of how you interact with the team. But there's like there's a strong outcome related to that educational content. So it's like video to me is like perfect for that, because you're like, okay, like not only have you seen the video, but you can watch it again if you need to. And ideally with like a tutorial video or an instructional video, unlike a webinar, instructional video is much more planned. It's much more, it's short, it's to the point. I guess it doesn't have to be short, but it's like,
it's controlled.
It should be controlled. It should be very efficient, very effective, get right to the point, get through the content in a very like relatable and applicable way, and like cut out all the cruff. So it's like, ideally it's the most like effective delivery of content right there. So it's like, if I need you to know this, I'm going to make like a well-crafted video for it. And like, I can get to you a message in 5 minutes that like live Doug is going to ramble on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Or longer. So like that like very effective short like video, I think is like, to me, that's the impact of like video, is being able to deliver that.
Well, thinking about you, the rambling on, and I'm guilty too, right? So no judgment there. What pet peeves do you have when you watch other people's instructional videos? Like what just bugs you about what do people do that you wish they wouldn't? And it doesn't have to be from your team. It could be like you're watching something at home or
on YouTube. I think my biggest pet peeve. This probably gonna sound silly, but like I think my biggest pet peeve is when, I don't know, I see people trying to like pretend to be authentic about a thing that they're teaching or they're talking about. So it's not so much instruction related as it is like I'm trying to connect with this person. And so if I see people kind of going over the top about something, or just rambling on and telling stories that like are tangential to what they're trying to teach me, and I'm like, no, I'm really here to like learn about this thing.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the person taking the time to make the video, but like you don't need to tell your whole backstory.
It's like the cooking blogs, right?
Yes, it's like just jump to the recipe.
I don't care about your grandmother in Italy. I'm sure she's a wonderful lady, but I don't need to know her life story.
Right. And I like, to some extent, like I think the content creators that do it best find ways to like weave their story into the instruction, so that you do build a connection with them as they're teaching you, and you're not like, okay, where's the fast forward where I hit that, jump 30 seconds ahead. Instead, you're like, they use their story to like boost the instruction in a relatable way. So that's like the opposite side of that pet peeve. It's like when people do it well, it's like, oh dang, like that sounds like a really cool guy and I learned so much, this is great, as opposed to like, oh,
it reminds me.
Here he goes again.
It reminds me, I was building out content for our TechSmith Academy. This is a long time ago, and we're doing a piece on lighting, and I had this whole really great section I wrote about like certain things, why they were called certain things in lighting. And I remember one of our video producers at the time just came to me and said, "No one cares." No one cares about that. And I'm like, but it's so cool, because I was excited about it, but he was right. It did not matter to the content that we were trying to teach. And I think that's kind of that thing, right? It's so easy to get caught up in especially when you're an expert, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's so easy to get caught up in that information that you're like, oh gosh, yeah, everyone should know about how the barn doors, where that came from, actual barn doors that Thomas Edison had. See, I needed to work it in someplace, but like, so I totally understand that. Anything else that really bugs you about tutorial videos?
No, but I can touch a little bit more on that topic that you were just kind of getting at,
Yeah.
like adding extraneous information. One kind of interesting story from back when I was much more focused on instructional design is our tutorial videos are usually around like 3 to 5 minutes. And at one point here at TechSmith, we migrated all of our tutorials into Wistia, which allowed us to see like engagement trends on our tutorials. And one thing that we noticed right out the gate is we had this really weird engagement trend where like people were skipping like the first 30 seconds to a minute of our video, like all of them. And we're like, what's going on here? And what we quickly realized is that when we would do our little tutorial videos, we would start by talking about like the value of this feature. And it was very much like TechSmith speak of like, here's this thing and why you should care, essentially, instead of like getting right to the instruction. And for us internally, we're like, yeah, this is super important. People need to know why this thing is important and why they should care about it and like the value of it. And then we'll teach them how to use it. And what we noticed is that everybody was just like skipping that part. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. They're like, just teach me how to do the thing.
Yep.
Teach me how to use the tool or teach me the workflow. And so we then worked through all of our tutorial videos and we like removed that chunk. Or actually, we just like shortened it to like a sentence. Like we give them one sentence of a value statement and then jump right into the instruction. And we saw the general engagement of our videos go up quite a bit. And so it's just like, it's that same idea of like the audience is essentially like, yeah, just shut up and show me how to do it kind of thing. We're like, okay, sorry.
That's what's relevant to them. All the
Yeah.
other stuff, maybe somebody, someplace, sometime.
Yeah,
but
so
right.
I'm sure there were plenty of people that liked it, but the majority of the people, they were like, just get to it, man. Get to the instructions. So like, we can do that.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so how long do you think you have to grab someone's attention and make sure that they're pulled in, given what you just told us, right?
Right.
To make sure that they're going to actually watch that, whatever piece of content you're making.
Yeah. So for videos that are like public facing, like people are choosing to be there, like they're not forced
Right.
to watch these. Yeah.
Not compliance.
So, yeah, not compliance because it's different, right? But for these types of videos, I say you have seconds. I don't know the exact amount, but within that first handful of seconds, maybe they'll give you more. Like if a person's like really interested in the topic, they'll suffer through more, right? They'll suffer through more to get there. But like if you haven't captured them in the first handful of seconds, I think you should really be taking a hard look at like, how am I opening my videos? What's my strategy here at the beginning of the video to really hook people, make sure they have a solid sense of what you're going to be talking about and like your effectiveness as a presenter or as an instructional designer. But I would say give them the first handful of seconds. Ideally, you should have them by then. If not, you've got issues.
So I want taking that idea, because we just both said, for the public facing, you're choosing to be there, right?
Right.
Why is it that we treat people who are in a compliant situation or locked into the seat that has to watch it? Why do we treat that different? Why do we assume that they're willing to suffer for 30 seconds, a minute, when what we just said is that when people choose to watch it, it's like 5 seconds, I'll say.
Right.
Why do we do that? Why do we think it's different why shouldn't we treat the compliance situation similarly? Like grab their attention, try to get them to want to watch this thing?
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think when we make, particularly, we'll say like internal compliance training videos, I think there's two things at play there. One, I think we know we don't have to, because we're like, they're gonna have to sit down and watch this. But I think the other thing is that like a lot of internal training teams, like they are up against super tight deadlines. Not that like a customer ed team like mine is not. Like we have our deadlines as well, but the amount of people I know that work in internal training and they're like, hey, they get a request like, Matt, we need you to make this video. Could you have this done tomorrow? And when you have that tight deadline, it really like squeezes you. I don't know. It like squeezes your video production down to like the bare bones. Where you're like, listen, I can't make this fancy or interesting or whatever. I need to get this specific content out the door by tomorrow. If I can make it engaging, great. If I can't, apparently it doesn't matter because it's due tomorrow. And so like that like tight deadline, I feel like it really cramps people's ability to like invest more time and make them engaging.
No,
So,
I
yeah.
totally get it, right? Like, I think it's always making trade-offs in the internal training team. I remember working for an organization. The backlog of courses was like 300 to 400.
Yeah.
And there was always more coming in.
Right.
Right. So totally understand. So with that said, and that kind of as a backdrop, what are 2 or 3 features in Camtasia that you think could help make, I'm not going to say it's going to solve that problem. It won't. But what could maybe help alleviate, or that are your go-to tools that you're like, hey, this makes for a better video?
I get 2 or 3. No, I'm thinking.
If you don't have 2 or 3, you can do
No,
1 or 2.
no,
but
I do. I'm just
this is
thinking,
this is
like,
the point where I have to open up Camtasia and say, okay, what do I do all the time?
Well, okay, so I think in a lot of ways I think a lot of times when we say engaging, we think like, woo, like, hey, like fireworks and shiny things, which they have their place. I feel like those are more like maybe drawing attention to things, where in a lot of ways, if you cover content well, it's kind of engaging in itself, especially if you tell like a nice narrative around it, like you're telling a good story, like a story that connects. So if you have the content side down, like if you're telling a story that connects, that's going through the instruction you need to get across, like that already helps a lot. Once you get that into Camtasia, I think the features that help empower that storytelling in a lot of ways. For me, it's probably just the custom animation. Like, I use custom animation all the time, because with the custom animation, you can control the viewer's attention, where they focus. So you can zoom in on, like, say, a part of the screen that is like, I want them to focus right here and only here. They don't need all the rest of the stuff I've recorded or the rest of the stuff that's in this frame. You can zoom in to focus their attention. You can pan to like whatever it is, like the next thing you're going to show them. So you can guide them like through the complexity of whatever UI you're teaching them, or whatever sort of software you're training them on. Like, you can guide their attention throughout that story and really make sure that they're not being distracted by like extraneous details and stuff like that. So like just the simple like zooming and panning to me is like an absolutely excellent place to start. If everybody could, I don't know, if we could just make sure everybody could learn and like master just the zoom and pan already, I think it would improve so many people's videos. But so that's custom animation. I think the second one, call outs and annotations. Yeah. Okay. So I think for the second one, actually, I think for the second one, I'm going to go with just general annotations. Being able to like point at something on the screen to express like, this is important, or like to be able to like point out more information pointed specifically at that object on the screen. So you could be anything from adding arrows to like a title, or adding like a circle or a box or like a sketch motion, like, hey, this, like a circling object there, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what's important. So using call outs to be able to like even focus the customer's attention even more, or even like adding in information. So just like simple annotations, and then you can actually use 1 and 2 together. You can animate the annotations in and like add a little bit more engagement to it, which right there, like there's a ton of value in that, in being able to like capture their attention and focus their attention there. The third one I would say is the cursor. So like one thing that Camtasia does better than any tool out there is it allows you to have control over the cursor in your screen recordings, which like I can't emphasize that enough, because in a lot of ways the cursor really is like the hero of the story. If you think about the amount of times people are recording their screen and they're trying to show somebody something, and they're like taking their cursor and they're like, this is the important thing right here. Or they're just trying to get like really smooth cursor motions. But no matter what you do with the cursor, there's one guaranteed truth about it, which is that your customers or your viewers are following the cursor with their eyes. It's like the most direct path to like, this is what they're looking at. They are watching the cursor and they want to be able to follow what it is you're doing. And so Camtasia makes it super easy to take the cursor. You can actually put in a custom cursor, so it's like super high quality. You can make it as big or small as you want, so it's like super easy to focus their attention on that cursor. you can control the path of where the cursor goes. So even if you recorded your screen and you're doing like crazy stuff, you can be like, no, I want it to just very smoothly glide from here to there.
Yeah.
And then with some of like the new features coming out, you can even add like little wiggles to the cursor. You can add like some cool physics to it that it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of like adding a little bit of like delight or like engagement to it just to make it a little bit more fun. But having like complete control over the cursor in a lot of ways, like it makes the videos more interesting. It makes them easier to follow. It makes them look more professional. So like if you have a super small cursor, you've got like a nice big fat, like really high quality cursor that's super easy to follow. Like it just looks real slick. So it just allows you to like pretty easily make your video like look more professional, easier to follow. It just kind of like, you can like up your instructional design game with like minimal investment, which is super nice.
Well, I love all those, and I love that Camtasia makes it so easy compared to like other tools that I've used that where you have to start going like, we'll call it After Effects, right? Like, oh my gosh, to make something move or appear in After Effects is so much work.
Right.
But I do want to push back on one thing, and I hear this a lot. I hear this a lot at TechSmith. That's just maybe it's my pet peeve. We often say the cursor is the hero of our story, and I'm gonna disagree with you.
Let me have it.
I don't think it's the hero. I think it's the Yoda to the Luke. It is the guide.
It's the guide.
Okay. It is, in the classic arc of the story where you've got the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Because I think, and this is going to sound very pandering, and I don't mean it to sound that way, the viewer is the hero.
Is the hero.
We want them to be the one who goes through the journey, comes out on the other side as the winner.
Yeah.
Versus the cursor. It's not the cursor, right?
Yeah, you're right. You are right. You changed my mind on that. Yeah, I think I was just, yeah.
No, we say it all the time. And
yeah, I think I've just heard it so
me.
much. But yeah, I like the way you frame that. The viewer is the hero, or at least the main character, and then the cursor is the guide. Yeah,
we're just just leading you through that information. So,
yeah.
Well, Doug, we've talked a lot about video, but it's interesting as a manager, you talk that you use Snagit all the time, and I'm sure it's images, I'm sure it's the video, it's kind of the whole bag of tricks there.
Yep.
Same question we asked about Camtasia. What are your 2 or 3 like go-to tools inside of Snagit?
Okay, I'm gonna split that into kind of like 2 parts because with image, if we're taking like just image capture.
Yep.
So my go-to scrolling capture. Oh my
all
god,
the time.
I couldn't leave.
Do you do auto scroll or do you do the one where you scroll it yourself?
I do the one where I scroll it myself. I don't know why. I just for some reason like.
Me too.
Yeah. So anyways.
But I love it.
So I don't know how I'd live without scrolling capture. I was using it this morning. I use it all the time. It's just anything that scrolls through that window. Oh, it's beautiful. So I'd say scrolling capture, and then along with that, I use the cutout tool a lot. So like for example, just this morning, our team uses WordPress as our content hosting platform, and we're making some changes to the back end. And I had to take a scrolling capture of the big long editor page. And I was like, okay, I wanted to provide some feedback on some changes. And so it's like, oh, cut out this part. Don't need to talk about that. Cut out this part. Don't need to talk about that. And so you can just quickly like shorten up that long capture. So like,
can I ask you that? Do you leave in like the cut marks?
No,
or you're straight?
No. The only reason I would ever leave in the cut marks is if I need the person to know that I remove something. If that's not usually the case for me, so I just cut it out. I don't care. Whatever.
I know
it's
some people
fine.
find them really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting.
I don't think they're. Yeah. Personally, I don't think they're fun. I think they're great for showing like, hey Matt, I sent you this thing, and you can then very clearly see I removed something from the middle of it.
I've removed context.
Yeah. So you can say. So then you can see like, okay, there's something here, and if you want to know more, you could ask me about it. Yeah. That's great. But I very rarely need people to know that, so I'm just like chop stuff out.
Awesome. So another tool there for.
Okay, so I'm jumping to the video recording side because that's like honestly I almost use that as much these days. So just recording video, honestly, in Snagit, being able to do like the pip, and then also coming up soon. I think it's already released on the Mac side, coming out on Windows soon. But the background noise removal is so good, which is so nice. So that's like a favorite feature, but it's really just like, I don't know, some built-in goodness.
It's just on.
It's just on, but it works so well. I was demoing it at a conference not long ago. We were there. I was demoing it at DevLearn, and man, you could record video like at a conference, tons of people around, and it cut out like all of the background noise. It was absolutely amazing. So the background noise removal to me, like game changer. But yeah, recording video, and then I sometimes use a screen draw. I don't use it a ton, so I don't know if it makes like favorite status, but being able to like draw little arrows or be able to like circle things as I'm like talking, that's pretty nice. But really, like, I guess my other go-to is just being able to like cut out little mistakes in the Snagit editor after I've done recording. Just trimming out the front or the beginning and the end of a video is great. It's not a great experience. It's hard to do in Snagit,
I was gonna say.
but it's great to be able to do it.
Have you ever made the mistake where you recorded something and then you're like, oh gosh, I really should have just done this in Camtasia because of
Yes.
the amount of edits I need to
Yep.
make?
Oh, I've done that plenty of times. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I'll just send the video to Camtasia. And they're like, oh, but then I can't edit the cursor. Oh, because then like once I'm in Camtasia, I want to do all the normal Camtasia things. And then, yeah, it's a whole like cyclical thing. I don't know.
I'm with you. Like scrolling capture is great. I love Snagit video recording for just simplicity's sakes, because then I feel like I don't have to do the work that's in Camtasia.
Right.
As much as I know I can use Camtasia, but it just saves me like the feeling. Maybe it's that just internal feeling.
And also when you do video recording in Snagit, like when you hit stop, the video is already rendered. Like, so you don't have to re-render it.
Yeah.
So there's no rendering time. It doesn't really matter how long you record. When you hit stop and Snagit, the video's done. It's ready to go. So like you hit the share link button, it just uploads it to Screencast, and you're like, here's the link.
Yep.
All done. So like that workflow is great.
I'll just add one of my favorites is where you do selection of an area and then you can do the auto replace background.
Oh yeah, in the image, yeah.
In
okay,
the
yeah.
images,
Yeah,
on the image side, it's just so most of the time it works really, really, really well. If gradients are a little tough, but I just love that. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
And like just makes my life that much easier when I just want to take something out.
Yeah. You know, another really simple favorite of mine that I think a lot of people look past is just the fact that you can just crop an image capture after you've done taking it by just like dragging the handles on the canvas. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I look past that a lot. Not everybody really knows that you can do it, but just like you take your screen capture and you're like, ooh, there's like a little extra stuff over here, and just being able to like click the handle on the canvas and drag it in. It's like, there you go, that's done. Just so some little simplicities like that are great.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, let's do some hot takes here. So let's make these fast and
Yes.
quick, okay? We don't need a lot of detail necessarily, but I'm going to ask you about a couple different topics here. Let me bring it up. So I've got those ready. Okay. We're going to fast and furious.
Yeah.
Avatars. Hot take.
Like the realistic looking AI avatars.
Human avatars. AI.
That's my hot take. I hate them. Everybody, yes, that's my hot take. I hate them. I cannot stand them.
One reason why.
I hate things that are trying to be authentic but are clearly not. Like the faux authenticity. It drives me nuts. Like, I would rather look at a cartoon avatar, because that's not pretending to be anything it's not. I'm like, it's a cartoon. I get it. It's great. But show me an AI generated person, and they're trying to make it look like a real person. I'm like, no, don't. Just, I would rather I'd rather it be a robot talking to me, because it's not trying to like trick me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like AI avatars are trying to trick me. I'm like, just don't, please. Just, I would rather just do something else, please. Just,
Anything.
I don't know. Yes, anything.
Okay, well, let's go to the other side, though. AI generated voices.
Okay, so AI generated voices. I think they're there's good and bad to them. I'm not nearly as averse to them, because I don't know, something about them is it doesn't feel like they're trying to like trick me or anything like that. It just feels like it's like, hey, okay, so a person didn't like the sound of their voice, they use an AI generated voice. That to me is like fine, as long as like their lips aren't moving and the narration is completely different. Like, if you use it in Camtasia with, let's say, like a still image of your face with like maybe an audio visualizer around it, and you've got an AI generated voice, at some point, we'll be able to like clone our own voices and be able to do that. To me, that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me.
Okay, Doug, we're going to put you on the hot seat.
Yes.
If you're an instructional designer or you're managing your team, how or when should they be using those tools, AI avatars and AI generated voices?
As an instructional designer, like I can't say when you should use an AI avatar. I honestly don't know. Like I haven't seen a situation yet where I'm like, wow, that's great. I can speak to like the business side of it. If you're like, hey, we need to make videos that include a person in them for some reason, like we need to have a person in them, and we're going to be localizing that video into 50 other languages. Okay, an AI avatar is a perfect like business reason to do that.
But what you're saying, you don't know why you need a person in a video, though.
Right.
Like, why is that necessary?
Yeah, because like from an instructional designer, the reason you include a person in the video is often to like build connection with the viewer, which I think is why I'm so adverse to like AI avatars, because that's not building connection. That's building it's not real. Like, so if I watch a video with you, Matt, in it, I know like Matt made that video. If I have questions about that video, I can talk to Matt. Matt, maybe you maybe even shared a story or two that you like like we talked about crafting your narrative or your story. So I learn more about you, and like I build a connection with you, and I can associate what I learned with you. When you put an AI avatar in there, it does like it like breaks all of that. Like it really does. And so from an instructional design standpoint, I don't know how I'd recommend using AI avatars. When it's just AI voice or just AI narration, it's a little different, because you could be like just teaching something some very straight instructional video, and you're just like, I need to teach people how to use this thing, or I need to teach some like very straight like compliance training. Using it like AI generated narration, I think would be fine. Like I just need people to know this, and this AI narrated voice sounds real enough or sounds close enough to my voice that people will look past it. Because the importance is on the instruction there. That's what the focus is on. I think you can get away with it, and I think people could do that. And especially if they're like us and they have to localize their videos into a bunch of different languages, it makes it easier for them, a lot easier, like much more scalable. So
yeah,
I think they have a place there.
So yeah, so I think I guess my take is it's going to be a balance, right, between the business need and the kind of that whatever else you're trying to achieve with whatever instruction you're creating, and that's always good. There's always going to be trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
Somebody might say no, we want a face because whatever reason. Okay,
Yep.
fine, but it's not going to be for you. It's definitely not going to be your go-to. We're not going to see the Doug AI avatar presenting anything anytime soon.
And I think it actually touches back on the question you were talking about, the difference between like internal videos you have to watch and external videos that you want to be engaging. I think you're going to see a lot more avatars used in those internal videos that people have to watch, as opposed to like external facing, public facing videos where you're really trying to capture attention. I don't think you're going to see AI avatars in them nearly as much.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Okay, a couple more hot takes. So quick, fast answers. Preference on video length.
I actually don't. I think the content and like the purpose should set the length. So like if I need you to learn some little quick bits of things or like little inspirational content, like sweet 30-second little vertical video, like engage me, get me drooling over something, Matt, hook me, bring me in. But if it's like, hey, I want to learn how to become an instructional designer, like, I don't know, 30-second short form video just doesn't feel like the length. So it's like, give me a full on course. Like I don't, at that point, maybe you have shorter videos and you got a whole bunch of them strung together. Maybe it's a long form video. To me, it doesn't, like, let the content determine how long the video should be.
I sure hope becoming an instructional designer takes more than 30 seconds.
Yes.
Because I paid a lot for a master's degree.
Yeah. Same. So it's like, yeah, it's either that or you're watching like 1,000 30-second videos, and they're like, at that point, like that just wasn't the right length for those videos.
Yeah. Bad video. How do you feel about it?
Bad. yeah. Bad video. Do you mean like poor quality video?
I'm not defining
like
it.
Boring.
You get to define that.
Oh God, I mean, I guess it depends. If it's like a bad video on YouTube, that's fine. You just hit next and don't watch it. But if it's a bad video that I have to watch, that's like in some internal training, oh my God. That's the worst, because then you have to suffer through it, and and you can watch the little time countdown, and if it's like a 30-minute bad video, it's just...
Don't worry, we'll put a quiz at the end.
Yeah.
And it's a drag and drop
or
quiz.
Throughout. Yeah. The little pop-up that sees if you're paying attention, like, click this to get 1,000 points. You're like, oh.
Points for what?
Yeah, I know, right? Points so you can brag to your friends.
I'm going to print this certificate today.
Yeah.
Bad audio.
Bad audio that's a non-starter. Yeah, you can't start with bad audio. We have our own internal TechSmith research showing that. It's like if there's anything, if you're going to invest money in any new hardware, you start with a great microphone. You start with a great audio setup, whatever you can do to get high quality audio. And like our new background noise removal in both like Snagit and Camtasia helps with that, but there's no replacement for just good quality audio. And like, yeah, so we know it. Like if you start watching a video and the audio's all garbly and hard to understand, people are out of there, man. They're not going to watch it. They're not going to be engaged.
Yeah. All right, Doug, as we wrap up here, is there anything that we did not talk about? Any topics, questions you wish we would have asked that we'd end on today? Like anything pressing in your mind based on the conversation we had?
It's hard to look past the AI avatars. That was kind of the big pressing one. Because I have some strong opinions about them.
Which is good. I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a strong opinion about something like that.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting in a year or two to have that same conversation. See if anything has changed or not.
Yeah, because like the technology is going to improve, and I am interested to see if the responses I just gave you changed. Because like, what if you get to a place where you can't distinguish the difference between an AI avatar and like a real person? That's kind of scary.
And then what does that mean?
That's scary to me. Yeah, but what's that mean? And is it going to be the death of video in some ways? Because we're all going to just be everywhere. Like you can make as many videos as you want really quickly with you in them.
We'll make a bunch of Doug videos.
There's 10,000 Matt videos. Yeah,
there might be already 10,000 Matt videos that no one has watched. So.
Right, right. So our AI avatar is going to get more people to watch them, or is there just going to be more videos out there?
More videos.
More videos. So it's going to be the death of video.
Yeah. Okay. Hot take topic. How often do you use rounding corners in Snagit or Camtasia when you're making content?
Not really that much. I'll sometimes use it in Snagit, particularly if I've taken like a screenshot of something on like the Mac side where they often round the corners anyway. So it's nice to be able to like round the corners of the canvas to fit it. Mm-hmm. So that when I like copy and paste or put that somewhere else, it doesn't have like the extra stuff around the corners. In Camtasia, the only time I use rounded corners is when if I'm doing like a Rev style recording, like using the Camtasia Rev workflow. But that's really, it rounds the corners for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm not actually doing it. It's just auto applying.
You're choosing it.
Yeah, I'm choosing it. But yeah, so I'll do that sometimes. It's really more for just looks. It's not like there's no like instructional value to it.
Yeah, it doesn't change the learning. But
no,
it looks good.
No. Yeah, it looks good now because that's kind of like the in look for now. But who knows? A few years later, it will change. Yeah, a few years later, it might be like, no, give me those like real hard edged corners.
How dare you round those corners?
Yeah, exactly. So
we'll now just set the trend into the future. We just gotta bring it back.
But it's nice to. It's nice to be able to have that option, which is like that's how I look at it. Like it's definitely there are tons of people I know that do use them a lot. So it's like it's nice to have that option. But yeah, sometimes I do it. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Doug. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me and having this conversation and going through all these answers. I know it's always hard to be put on the spot when you don't know what's going to be asked, but I'm so grateful for that. You took the time, and we'll have to talk again in another year or so to talk about avatars more.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
I want to thank Doug again for sitting down and talking with me in studio. What a great opportunity to hear from him, to learn from him. Obviously, he's got a lot of great ideas about video and video usage, particularly as a customer engagement manager. Well, that wraps up the show for today. We hope that you like it. We hope you like hearing from these different voices. I thought this was a great opportunity as we were interviewing Doug for these other things. I thought, you know what? This is a great episode. So I'd love to hear from you. If you got ideas, suggestions, things you'd like me to talk about, or people that you'd like me to talk to, reach out at thevisuallounge@techsmith.com. And what we hope is that every time you hear the episodes, you listen to the show, it inspires you, it helps you, and you desire to get a little bit better every single day. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you